Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Um,
So I have a number of hats. So my main one is I'm a minister of a church,
okay.
but I also do websites for charities.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a number of charities that I'm connected with. I lived in India for about 8.5 years. So there's kind of connections there that I try to help with, plus other organizations. And so I'm fairly good with tech, although I'm not kind of trained within it. I just kind of get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been using RapidWeaver since, well, early days, at least 10, 11 years. Been
Excellent.
using RapidWeaver. I did originally back in the 90s, I could produce a website with HTML and CSS, but those days have gone. So I tried to keep myself updated with things, but everything has mushroomed in a way that all of the different areas where it was HTML and CSS, you've now got complete frameworks and things. And so I try to go for the easiest option. I'm trying to learn JavaScript at the moment, as that seems to be the one language that can be used just about everywhere.
Yeah,
But
it is. It's become very popular. It can be a tough language though, to be honest with you. Especially if you haven't programmed before.
yeah,
Because most programming languages, if you write a program, some code, um, in most languages it just executes from top to bottom, right?
yeah,
But JavaScript doesn't guarantee that, right? It can, um, it depending on what you're doing, this bit of code, the code that's below it might actually run before this code is even finished, right? So it's kind of
yeah.
crazy. It's taken me a number of years to get really good at JavaScript.
Oh,
Yeah, JavaScript, especially that asynchronous, ability. If you
yeah,
start
yeah.
running functions and doing other things, and it can get, yeah, it's crazy. And another thing, like if you have an error in one piece of JavaScript code, like it breaks everything on the page. Like that's
Wow.
annoying. I hate that.
Well, I mean, I've noticed, the increase of Electron apps as well, that
Yes.
obviously it's being used quite a bit, and stuff that I do on the computer. I use the terminal every so often to do a
Hmm.
few things, and I've noticed
Awesome.
again JavaScript is so helpful. Not that I can code within it, but I can understand some of it as I read through. But I thought if I'm
Perfect.
going to learn a language, I might try and learn that and see how I get on.
Awesome. Just by this 30-second chat right now, I think like Foundation 6 is, what's funny is like it seems like a perfect fit for your mentality, like someone that's rather techie, who definitely has, again, the techie kind of mind. So I'm interesting to see. So you've tried Foundation 6,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
um and it just, something wasn't clicking with you, right?
I mean, some of it has clicked. So just to give you a bit of background, so I've been using RapidWeaver, but I've also been toying with blocks.
Okay.
I don't know if you've come across blocks, but it's
I'm
also
I'm I'm aware of it. Yes. I
okay.
haven't used it or built a site with it at all.
Okay. One of the things that I liked with blocks is right off the bat, blocks get you to interact with the CSS, and they make it very easy.
Hmm.
And you can then create CSS styles that you can use across different areas. You just put the same style in, and it
Hmm.
styles what you've got in the same way. And I missed that actually in RapidWeaver, but Foundation brings that in.
Yes.
And so, which has made me relook at Foundation. But what I couldn't get my head around initially, but I think just having banged my head against it enough times, I didn't grasp that all of the kind of style settings that would be in the stack menus on the right in the information
Hmm.
and now moved into site styles and swatches.
Correct.
Now that's helped me massively in doing that. But because I've been using RapidWeaver for 10 years, I'm
Yeah.
used to seeing those settings there. And if
Yeah.
they're not there, you kind of think, well, oh, what do I do now? And
Yeah.
I'm one of these bad people. I do read documentation, but I don't always read all the documentation. And you kind of think, oh, let's just try and see if I can get that a go.
Yeah.
And so I kind of get that, but I've got some questions that maybe we can look at as we go through.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to share your screen? How do you want to do it? What's
well, probably just to ask first off, because some of it is fairly kind of foundational. So I'm going right back to the beginning. So when you use RapidWeaver to set up a site, is there a kind of ritual that you go through of settings that you set when you do that?
Yes. And funny enough, that is the exact topic of my live stream today.
Okay, well, I'll have to put down.
I'm not joking. That is actually my topic of my live stream today. It's actually setting up a domain from scratch. So like I have a website domain. It does not have any website. It doesn't have any hosting yet. And I am setting up the domain as well as the project file completely from scratch today.
Okay, then I'm not going to go through that again because I don't want to waste your time within it. One of the questions in my mind is you've got site styles, and the site styles have kind of the swatches in it as well.
Yes.
But you've also got swatches that you can add to an individual stack.
Yep.
So when would you add a swatch to an individual stack? Because I've noticed initially I put them all in the site styles, but it became quite difficult to remember what referred to what.
Exactly. So when I designed this, I didn't know what was the best way. So I tried to come up with ways, because I knew eventually that site styles was going to get congested with swatches. Okay. So I didn't know what the best way was 2 years ago because they were so new and we never had anything like that. So I wanted to make sure I came up with some different ways that we can organize our swatches. Okay. And I do have a video on that, but I'll give you the crux of it right now. So the way I've migrated to doing it is any swatch that is generic that I can use across multiple pages.
Yeah.
Okay. I will put those inside site styles.
Okay, that's the global thing. So I read that. I looked
exactly, because normally site styles is going to be something that's going to be in a partial, and then that partial is going to be on multiple pages, right? So any of the swatches or styles that you want to have access to across multiple pages are going to go there.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now within there, do you have my free pen stack?
Yes.
Okay. So, I do have the ability to add pen to site styles, and that allows you to even then within site styles group things.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I can show you some examples of that in a little bit. Now, so that handles the global, the site-wide styles.
Yeah.
Now, whenever you're designing a page, there are going to be some styles that you're just like, I'm only going to be using it right here. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So at that point, what I do is I take that swatches stack, I drag it. Basically, most of the time our websites we create them in sections, right? Like this is a section of the page. And so what I do is if I'm going to create swatches for a section, I'm going to drag that swatches stack above that section.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll label it like, about me section or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, and then basically any styles that I'm using in that section are just going to be right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how does the inheritance work? So if I've got, let's say I set a certain header to be a certain pixel size in the global swatches. If I then want for one section, the header to be slightly different, and I set the kind of same header with a different pixel size, what will actually happen?
So, so let's say you're doing it, let's just use a class to keep things simple. Okay. Or you could also, style all H5s or H3s on a page as well. You could do that. Okay. But let's just take a class as an example. So let's say, I have a class in my site styles. Okay. That's across the entire site. And then all of a sudden, in a particular section, I want to override that style. Okay. Yeah. The best way to do that is to use something called the parent class.
Okay.
And this is very, very powerful. So basically in that section here, actually, let me share my screen.
Yeah.
so that it's not 100% conceptual. You can actually see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get these Zoom windows out of the way. What I can do is I'm gonna open up the website that is foundationstacks.com. This is the actual project for foundationstacks.com. It's the active project for it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the homepage. Homepage is a good example. I also have a good video where I go through in detail how I built this entire page.
I've watched that actually.
Okay. So as you see here, another useful thing is shelf. If you've never seen that,
Yeah,
it allows you to, yeah, because a lot of times, like I found that sometimes we wanted to go to Site Styles and we had to scroll all the way to the top, and then we had to scroll all the way back down, right? Well, with shelf, my Site Styles is right here. Now this is a partial, right? So when we're partials, if you double click, you immediately go into it. So it's kind of convenient, right?
How do you, just a quick thing. So with the partials, I've noticed that if I make any change in a partial, it is not reflected real time until I exit out the partial.
Correct.
And that took me a while to get around. I was thinking, why is this not changing? So it's actually quite difficult to, the last thing you want to do is make it a partial. You don't want to do it while you're designing it. Otherwise you have a problem.
When I am first doing like I'm designing this page for the first time, right? It is true. I don't create a partial right away. I don't. Okay. Because it is quite annoying to have to double click and then go into here and then click back. It's a couple extra clicks, right?
Yeah.
So when I first designed this page, this was just a Site Styles stack.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't a partial of a Site Styles. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are correct. That initially I just used the straight Site Styles, and then when I get to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm making very infrequent changes. Maybe I'm just adding some swatches here or there, but a bulk of it's pretty much done. Then I'll partial it out, and then I'll apply, obviously that partial, apply it to multiple pages.
Okay. Yeah.
Another thing that's useful, if you've used Foundation 6, you probably, I don't know if you actually know what this sizing chart is for, okay? There's actually a special stack just for it, okay? That I tend to throw into shelf as well, because having access to it is useful, okay?
Yeah, it is.
Because in various stacks, I use these numbers, and sometimes we don't necessarily, it's hard to know what is 256 pixels, right? Or what is 128 pixels, right? So this chart, it visualizes that for us, right? So it's useful. So that's what I tend to have in my shelf, is this size chart, as well as the Site Styles partial, or if it's not a partial yet, it's just the Site Styles stack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is an example, actually, if we look at this, if you look at my Site Styles here, there's not much here.
No.
I do have a pen in here that organizes everything for this big icon. Okay. But everything else is not much. Okay. Because either I'm using the default styles, or if we go to each individual section, so like, let's find a section here, right here. So I have this section on the homepage called Save Money. Okay. Yeah. And right above that section, okay, I have swatches for that section. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this is just for that blob. Let's find one that has a little bit more than just two. Let's see. Here's some. Okay. So like, here's the footer of the page. Okay. And right above it, I have a bunch of swatches that are specific. Okay. Now what I've done, okay, is I have, let's see. I'm trying to find an example that has, okay, here's an example. Okay, so here I wanted to customize the padding for the menu items in the footer.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we look here, I have a parent class of footer.
Okay.
Okay, so whenever I design a section, okay, so for example, this container here, this contains my footer.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you look here, I have a class of footer.
Ah, okay.
So this entire section is within that is the footer section.
Yeah. And so anything that is a parent class in the footer, no matter what it is, will be applied to that section.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that way you can easily override, things within a section.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there are other ways to override, like you could do, maybe put a different class on something, right? And with CSS, order does matter.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, I don't want to modify this project too much. Let me open up a different project so we can kind of just play around.
Everything, when you create a style, you then say, and the parent name is footer, and it will add that onto it automatically.
Exactly. And what's kind of cool, so in my swatches, I'm in a roundabout way teaching you CSS. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you look here, so if you've never used this elements thing, it's very powerful. Okay.
Yeah, I've looked at that.
It's basically
Very
a
good.
bunch of pre-made things. Like there's a lot now. It's grown and grown and grown. Even total CMS stuff if you're a total CMS user. Okay.
Yeah.
So like here, instead of knowing how to select all the menu items, there's like a little pre-selected one. And what that is dot menu, greater than li greater than a,
Yeah.
right? So that's what that does. And then when you put the parent class, it automatically, this is the actual CSS selector that is used.
See, I didn't twig on that. That's really helpful.
Okay.
That then means
I give you a user-friendly way, like this swatch generator is a user-friendly way, but I show you exactly what it outputs.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And that's very powerful because this, again, in a roundabout way, teaches you CSS a little bit, even if you don't want to learn, right?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, like here, here's another example. So here I have a class of copyright, and then I have the pseudo state set to child elements. Well, that is this. So it's copyright greater than star.
Yeah.
Right. I don't remember what that did, but yeah, I mean, obviously I wanted to change the width on everything that was inside copyright. So there we go. Right.
So the more you know CSS, the more features you can pull out of this, actually, because you'll know what you need to change.
Yeah. And if you want to go all out, right? I don't know if I'm using any here.
Yeah, I've seen there's a CSS swatch, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, and also here, like you can put CSS and you can type your own CSS selector. Right. So you can like, if you're good enough to know your own CSS, how to at least do selectors, you can easily type in your own here as well. Right. Okay. So for example, on this one, let's say I wanted to do all, let's do a simple one, all H3s on a page, right? I could just do H3 and that's it. If I want to do H3s and H4 and H5, well, there we go.
Yeah. So if you wanted to change, let's say the H3 on one particular item, would you just give it a different parent class? And then it would, how would you change something? Because there's still the question with inheritance that if by mistake somebody puts the same CSS setting in the site styles and in a stack style, what happens?
Sure. Okay. Let's just create a little example here. All right. Let's create two different containers. All right. So let's do I'll just create this one's top and this one's going to be bottom. Okay, for classes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this container is top, this container is bottom. Okay. For easiness, let's just do text color.
Yeah.
Okay. So here I'm going to go let's do font color. Okay. And let's say we'll get a little bit tricky. I'm gonna modify all H3s on a page. So I do H3, okay, and I want my color to be red. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now obviously that's just setting the all H3s are red now.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
As you see that they're both red.
Yes.
Okay. So you want to customize this particular H3.
Yeah.
Okay. So remember that had a parent class of bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, remember. So I'm going to keep that the same. We want to target all H3s, and I'm just going to put bottom in here. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to make that one green. And guess what?
Wow, that's simple.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's other ways we do this. Like, for example, this is using the text stack, which is ultimately Markdown, right? But let's say, you're using the header stack. Okay. And let's set that to be an H3. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, H3. Okay. Now, that's actually interesting. Why is it interesting? There's some sort of style conflict in edit mode where that color is not getting in there for some reason. That's weird. Oh, yeah. I know why. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. But another thing we could do is, let's say instead of this, let's say I wanted to do something special just for this one header, like just this one.
Yeah.
Right. So let's call this special. Okay. And we're going to do font color special.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you can set that to be whatever you want. Okay,
yeah.
Let's do green, or we'll do purple, even different. Okay. That's
yeah, I get that now. And with the parent class, that's really, really helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So in inherit, like how does inheritance work? Okay. So let's say I create another thing in here. Let's call special. And let's set this one to be green. Okay. So here I have two swatches that do the same exact thing. Okay. This one comes last. Well, this one wins.
Okay.
Okay. So in CSS, order does matter.
So would that mean something further down the page? So if that swatch was further down above the stack, that would win?
Yes, and it would win for the entire page.
Okay.
Okay. Because while in edit mode, these styles, you can put them wherever you want. They are all stored inside the central CSS file.
Okay.
Okay. So it really doesn't matter if you have it up top or if you have it way down on the bottom. The CSS is stored together.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So again, if I move this one below it, there we go. It's now orange.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me scroll out of view. All right. So now on this one, I'm going to put bottom. So this one comes first. I'm going to put a parent class of bottom. Okay. Now here I have bottom specials color is green, and this one is just special color.
Yeah.
What color is that text going to be?
It's going to be the orange, not the green. Because that's the last one, isn't it? And they both have special on them.
So the text is green. Okay. That's because CSS, there's multiple things. So first off, when these were the same, these are now the same exact rule. So when something has, when they're the same exact rule, then the order wins. However, if you make something more specific, okay. So when I went on this one, I set it to bottom special. So this rule is now very specific. It's not anything that's special. It's anything that's special that's also inside bottom.
Okay.
This rule is now more specific. Therefore, even though it comes before this one, it still wins because it's a more specific rule. Now, this is where I mean, this is CSS. This isn't me, right? This is actually how CSS works. Okay, and this is why a lot of swatches do have an important, like, so if I now do this, it doesn't matter what anything else was. I have this force button, which then forces it. Now, I strongly recommend you don't use this or use it as infrequently as possible. Okay, because it's a sledgehammer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So specificity matters more than order, but order does matter.
Okay, that really helps. That really does help. I've got one design challenge.
Sure.
Let me just paste you in a URL. It's from another site. I'll send you that link. So I've been asked to recreate something similar, and I can kind of do it. But so two challenges for me. So I had two columns. I had the image and the watch recent stuff in one column, and I had the menus on the right. But when I centralized, the menu centralized with the text, so it didn't look right, because it really should be central just to the image. Otherwise, it doesn't look quite there. And also, this watch the recent message, I wanted to put an audio player there, and I messed around with a negative margin and how I can get that placed in that position, and I was not successful.
Okay, so so this particular this menu here, you wanted it in the middle, correct?
In the middle of the image.
Oh, in the middle of the image.
Yep.
Okay.
In the middle of the image, because if I put it in the middle of that kind of left column with all the text going down to the date, then it just doesn't look centralized because it's too far down the image, if that makes sense. It unbalances it.
So these buttons, you want it overlaid on top of this image?
No, I want it exactly as it is on this page. But I had a column where I put the image, where I put the watch recent message, the title, and the date.
Yeah.
I put all of that in one column, and I put the 4 menu items in another column. But when I told it to equalize the column, it also equalizes, taking into account the text at the bottom. And so it then doesn't look like it's centralized to just that image, if you get what I mean.
Got it. Okay, so what you would do is you would so the image and these buttons would be in a 2 column. Okay.
Yeah.
Now by default, columns inside Foundation are equalized.
Yeah, I noticed
okay.
that.
So if you would just here, let's do a quick example. Okay. Let's just reset. By the way, another thing, if you don't necessarily need to, like, by default, this is what Site Styles looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't need to see all this information, it does take up space. I have the ability to turn those off, and I normally do, you know, because I don't necessarily need to see that detail any longer. Okay. So that's why my Site Styles looks like this. I just prefer it to be minimal. Okay.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Okay, so let's build out. Let's do a 2 column, and we need a picture on this side and some buttons, other blue. There we go. Okay. So we're just going to just have a few buttons. I'm not going to try to mimic your styles.
No.
Yeah. Let's just get some stuff in here. Okay. Here, let's make it a little bit less, just so we can make sure that we have, and these buttons need to be, I assume, centered. I'm not center. Oops, I didn't select that one. Okay. So in the 2 column, what we're going to do is we're going to set vertical alignment to be middle.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just preview that really quick. There we go. So these are centered. Yeah. Obviously, the split, we can fix that split. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do that really quick. So we'll do 8 and 4, something like that. Okay, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we didn't need any sort of equalized swatches or stacks to do that.
No.
Okay. Okay. So now we want a button and some text to overlay the bottom of this.
Yeah. So I wanted at the bottom of that, where it has their watch recent message, I wanted an audio player there. And then underneath that, the kind of title and the date of what the audio is.
Sure. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna add actually, just for fun, I'm also gonna put it in a container just to limit this width of the layout, so it doesn't go full browser width. Okay. So now we want to have content below here. So let's go ahead and add that below that 2 column. Okay, oops. Actually, no, we don't want it in the 2 column. We want it outside the 2 column because we want it outside because we want to keep this 2 column to this so that the equalize heights works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this 1 column is going to be outside, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to size this 1 column to be the same size as the first column in this 2 column.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So I'm going to size this to be 12 and I think it was 8. There we go. All right. And for now, I'll mimic what you have now. So we're going to have a button and that button is going to be centered. Okay. And then actually we can just, here's the actual another trick. Like in all of these, I set these buttons to be centered. But what I could do is I could say this entire layout. So this entire container has content alignment of centered. And there we go.
Okay,
we're all centered. Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
And then below that, we had a header. Okay. And below that, I think we had a even smaller header. Let's do like H6. Okay. Let's just preview that really quick. There we go. I know it doesn't look pretty, but now let's just go ahead and shift this up. Okay. That's all we need. Now to shift things up, it's just a negative margin. Okay. So now there's 2 ways we can do this. Here, let's do it the Swatch way first. So we can do a margin and let's add a class of, I don't know, shift up, shift dash up.
Okay.
Okay. And so on this, I'm going to do the class of shift up and I'm just going to do what I want is that I don't want to do the top margin. Okay. So I'm going to do detailed and top, let's do like negative 64 pixels. Whoop. Oh, that's too much. Right. But if you saw, that did exactly what we wanted, right? So instead of 64, we want 20. All right,
that's perfect.
Okay. Now it doesn't matter what's in this layout. You could have an image, it could be an audio player, whatever you want. It's going to take that and it's going to shift it up.
Yeah. And how does that translate over to something like a mobile view?
Okay. So in mobile view, how would that translate to a mobile? So in the mobile view,
you'd want all the buttons. You'd want all the buttons as a list.
How would you want the layout? So, would you want the buttons above the? So it'd be easier. It'd be pretty easy if the buttons were on the top, and then we had the image, and then the audio below that. That would be pretty easy to do, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in order to get column 2, so by default, column 2 always goes below column 1.
Yeah.
Right.
I've noticed on their one, when you shrink it down, the menus go underneath the image and the audio player and the title.
Okay. So is that what you'd prefer? Let's do it both ways.
Yeah.
Okay. So in order to shift the order of the columns, you actually can't use the normal 2 columns. Okay. There are some settings that require you use columns pro.
Okay.
And this is one of those times. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to
because in columns pro you can change the order then, can't you? I think
exactly. So now in columns pro I can change the order. Okay, so let's ditch that. Okay, and then in here, let's see, this first column was set to 8. Okay, and let's just make sure that this is working. Let's get it working the same. Oh, we want column 2 to be vertical align. That's what I need. Vertical align middle. There it goes. Oh, interesting. Buttons are now centered like that. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna set these to centered, and that will. There we go. Okay. So by default, okay, let me explain what happened there. By default, buttons most of the time in stacks. Okay, if you have if you'll in edit mode, you'll see stacks on top of each other. However, in real web design, if you're coding this site by hand, there are many elements don't go on top of each other by default. They go next to each other, and buttons are one of those. Okay. So with Foundation 6, I tried really hard to make the experience exactly as if you were designing this or developing it by hand with code. Okay. So there are a couple things we could do. So I'd happen to know that when I set this small to be centered, it changes the display mode for a button. Okay. However, there are other things we could have done. There's a swatch called display, which we could set something to be display block. So by default, buttons are something called display inline in HTML. Okay, which means they're in line with each other. And if something is a display block, it means take up the entire block. The next thing goes below it. Okay. So I just happen to know when I set the alignment to centered, in order to accomplish that, I actually make things display block. I've done that for your convenience. But another thing we could do is there's a bunch of utility classes that we have access to in Foundation, and you could just do display dash block as well. Okay.
Are they listed somewhere, the utility classes?
Yep. So there's a classes stack, and they're all here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's preview that. Oh, okay. Just for now, I am going to keep this to be display center.
Yeah,
okay.
I understand that, so it's no problem.
Oops. Did that centered? Well, that is weird. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, glitch in the matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now we have our layout now with the 2 columns, with the column pro. So now let's do that shift. Okay, so inside columns pro, for each column, we now have the ability to set the ordering.
Yeah.
Okay, so on small, I'm going to set this to be the higher order wins. So I think that I'm going to set that to 2, and this one I'm going to set it to 1. I think there we go. Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now I want to swap it on medium. Okay. So on medium ordering, I want that to be 2. Oh, yeah. And then this one, I'm going to set it to be 1. Okay. So now on medium and large, it's going to be like that. And then on small, it's going to be like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's possible, maybe on small, you can even change this potential layout. Like maybe if you were to use columns here, you can make it, if there's 4 buttons, a 2x2 at the top. So on small, you're actually turning it into columns, and then on medium and large, you're making it full width. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if I wanted those buttons below the headers text.
Yep. So we'll do that next. So just so this layout, we now have this layout shift is up, and we're good. Okay.
Is there an easy way to put text on the image? At the moment, I've done that in my Photoshop app. But if I wanted to do it through Foundation, is there an easy way to do that?
Yes. So there is a Caption Stack. Okay.
Yeah.
And so by default, it does put it at the bottom.
Okay. You couldn't have like a header in the middle.
So let's do it. Let's do that. Okay. So now we're getting into, let's get a header. Think here. header. This is my header. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to use something called a position swatch because we want to position this header.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to do, here, we'll call this banner header. How about that? Something like that. Oops. Okay. So now I'm going to add a position swatch because we want to position a banner header.
Yeah.
Okay. I want it relative to what? So by browser, that's going to make it fixed to the browser. That's not what we want. We want it relative to its parent.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do, we want the units to be percentage. So we want it top 50%. And that should actually do it. And then what we also want is we want to center the origin. Okay. So we'll explain what this is, or let's turn it off and then I'll show you what that does. Okay. Now there's one other thing that we need to do. Okay. Is inside this column. So this column is what we want it to be positioned relative to, correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we need to make sure there's a setting here to make sure that this column is position relative.
Okay.
Okay. So we're explicitly setting this column to be position relative. Okay. Let's preview that. And there it is. So it is there. Okay. Here, let's just quickly do like, here we'll put an alt. So in Site Styles, there is alternate colors.
Yeah.
You can access those just by adding the alt class to anything.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that makes that white, right? And here, let's make it an H1 just for fun. Make it bigger. All right. Now, if you look, it is positioned to the left. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's because this header is set to align. So we can either align that to the center and, oh, okay. Never mind. So I forgot. It doesn't go full width automatically. So what we're also going to do is we're going to do left 50% as well. Sorry, on the position swatch. So then we're going to set position left and right to 50%. Now, that doesn't look very centered to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where these center origin buttons. So when CSS positions things, it's always the top left corner.
Okay.
So if you look, that top left corner of this header is right dead smack in the middle. Okay.
Yeah.
So what these center origins are, is it will basically center horizontally and vertically. Okay. At least shift it over. So what that's going to do is that's going to make the origin point the middle of this header instead of the top left corner. Okay. So where is the origin? What do we want the center of origin to be? And so we're going to center it horizontally and vertically. You probably don't notice. If I were to turn this off, you probably wouldn't notice it. I mean, you'd probably say, oh, that looks pretty centered, but it is off by half the height of that header, right? So that's why we need to check that as well. And there we go. That is now perfectly in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's good.
Okay. Okay, so now how do we get these buttons below? That is actually a little bit more work. Okay. And there's and we're gonna have to use visibility to basically show and hide things under certain situations.
Okay. So in the small viewport or the small screen size, you'd then hide one thing and show another.
Exactly. That's how I would do that. And that's just a common thing in websites that you sometimes in certain layouts, you need to do that.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. I get that. Thank you. Really do appreciate that.
Okay. And probably, I mean, if we're using this this particular layout, yeah, you'd have to. I mean, if you wanted to make it so that like these buttons, if you change it in one, you'd only change it in one place, instead of having to, having to remember to, if you ever change one of the buttons, you have to change the other one. Just make this contents a partial.
Okay.
And then have that partial on both places on the same page.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Does that make, get that?
It does. Yeah, makes sense.
So that way, yeah, it's just, I mean, there's nothing saying you have to use partials across multiple pages. You could have the same partial on the same page.
Yeah, it makes
Okay,
real sense.
cool. What other issues or questions did you think you had?
No, let me just have a look through. I made some notes. Is there a good way to manage color palettes? You can't drag color palettes in, do you? You'd have to go in and individually select the colors. Because sometimes, you know, I'll design a site and then I'll just get everything in the right place. And then I'll have a look and think, okay, I want to try out a few different color swatches to see what would look best. Is
Sure.
there an easy way to manage that, or do you have to each time just do it? Because I kind of go in, what I would do is I would copy an image of the swatch in and then use the color picker on each of the colors and do it. That's how I'm doing it at the moment. I'm just wondering if there's an easier way of doing that.
Sure, there are ways to make it easier. I do feel that I do want to make it better. It'll probably be something in Foundation 7 where I can completely rethink how some things are done. Okay.
Yeah.
And while I've improved color management in Foundation, I think it was actually 6.9. I added some new color and color management stuff. To make it completely better, I need to kind of overhaul a lot of things, which is something that would be done in like Foundation 7. Okay. But let's go ahead and show you what we got now. Okay. So first off, you know that we have these colors, primary, secondary, you know, all of these colors. And those colors are used throughout various components.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and let's create a different, a couple examples here. Okay. And just for easiness, I'm just going to use buttons as an example because I know a button uses primary color. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to create a couple different sections that have 2 different buttons within them. Okay. We're going to use top and bottom again.
Yeah. I really like that parent thing. Man, that's so good.
Okay. Let's get rid of these. Okay. So first off, we see the primary color here. And by default, these buttons are set to use the primary color.
Yeah.
Right. And if I ever want to test out a new primary color, I could just go ahead and change this to be whatever, and it changes everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, let's, I don't remember what exact color code it was. Let's just go back to that. All right. So that's one way. Now, another way is inside components, there are component colors. Okay. Which allows you, if you look, these are exactly the same as what this is up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we have to give it a class, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I do purple. Let's say primary is purple. And what happens if I give it a bottom class?
Okay.
Well, inside bottom, I'm changing my entire color scheme.
Oh, well, that's good.
Okay. So now I can have completely different color schemes for entire sections.
Yeah.
And you could do the same exact thing can be done with the text color swatch. So here inside Site Styles, we have text colors. Okay. And we have remember that alternate text color. Okay. Yeah. So we have header, alt, subheader. So all the alt colors. And remember, you can add all the alt colors just by here. Let's add some text into these layouts here. Let's go here. And let's go here. Okay. Let's say, for example, on this bottom, if I wanted the entire thing to use my alternate text colors, I guess I would just use alt right in there.
Wow.
And that uses these alternate colors. Now, I could also, if I didn't want to use that alternate swatch, I could create my own, right?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and we'll remove that alt. Okay, because we already have bottom. So let's say bottom, I want, you know, my headers to be, I don't know, red. Okay. And my text to be green. Let's make it horrible. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we're going to put bottom. And guess what?
Yeah.
My colors.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Okay. Now that's pretty simple. Okay. But there are other things, like, let's say, for example, backgrounds. Like, let's say, you use a background swatch, and here you defined a color. Okay. Yeah. And that's now not nicely associated to these centralized values.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you wanted to test out different colors here, you'd have to go and tweak the colors. Or you could not use background color, and there's a button here for swatch.
Okay.
Okay. And what that does is you can choose from a bunch of pretty much every predefined color there is.
Yeah.
And you notice that there's also a custom color option, which is the default. Okay. I'll come back to that, but for right now, let's just do secondary. Okay. So I'm going to do bottom uses the primary color. Okay. Yeah. And if I look here, the background color of bottom is the primary color.
Yeah.
All right. Now remember, I set the primary color to be purple here.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to change this to be something different, it changes. Now here it changes the button as well. So I'd probably change this one to be secondary or something like that, right? And please don't ever create a site with those colors, but you get what I mean, right?
I do. So you're putting the bottom class in the specific class name for those. You're not putting it in the parent one.
Yeah, because these color swatches kind of apply to everything within it.
Okay.
Okay.
And that doesn't. So if you create something where you have the same class name, but for different components or for different swatches, it will just apply all of those things. So you could have one class name and have different kind of components.
For example, let's say this text, I wanted this to be bottom as well. And there you go. It gets those colors.
Oh, wow. And in your swatches, you could give that bottom class to different components.
Yep.
And then everything is covered in that one. That's
if
really
I give
good.
bottom this, I mean, bottom is a horrible name for what we're doing here, right?
Yeah.
But there we go. I put bottom, and it's getting the primary colors changed because that's I told bottom has the primary color for bottom is this color.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. It means you don't have to mess around with many class names. You can actually group it under one if you need to.
100%. Okay.
Brilliant.
I skipped over something here. So in here, I was using this primary color.
Yeah.
But here we are limited by the names and values here. What if you wanted something else, right? So that's where this custom color comes in. And how do we define a custom color? This is a part of, whenever you see something that has this little plus symbol, it means it's a part of the swatch pack.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if you have the swatch pack. It is an additional. It has like I think 50 or so additional swatches.
I bought the whole lot in one, so I've got all of that.
So if we go to here, we can define where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. So under components, we have custom color. Okay. And this is a way for us to define a name of our own color.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So by default, it's just my color. And we can set it to here. Let's just use red. Okay. So now if I on the class bottom, I'm setting the background to be the custom color, my color.
Yeah.
Okay. And that color matches to this.
Yeah.
If we scroll down, there it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So now and a lot of swatches support this swatch colors. So you can define a custom color. So like, for example, if we go to even in like the font color swatch, let's say here you can use a swatch and you can define it from here as well. Okay. Now, what's the difference between text colors and font color, you might ask?
Yeah.
Okay. The font color swatch requires that you specifically apply it to a specific item. Okay. Let's do my font color. Okay, just as a class.
Yeah.
I'm going to apply this to various things. Now I can apply this to a button and I get my font color. But if I apply this to text, I don't.
Okay.
Okay. The reason behind this is text is a very different animal because it's using this markdown processor. It's actually many things, right? Now, if I were to add a header in here, okay, and I were to put it there, I do get the color like we would expect.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm explicitly applying it to that one thing. A text is special in that this is a header and a paragraph and a bulleted list.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so if we were to somehow be able to, like in Markdown, I can type in HTML, right? So if we were to do like H1 class equals, paste in my font color, test, close H1. Okay. And save that. You know what? There is a bug in the Markdown stack where you have to save it twice. I've noticed. I'll have to talk to Isaiah about that. There we go. Right.
Yeah.
And so that works because I can explicitly put that class in here. But when I'm just using straight Markdown, I don't have that ability. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. But text colors does, right? It can apply to everything inside. Hopefully that helps out.
Yeah, it does. That makes a lot of sense. So
okay. And so, I have some people that wanted to like create an entire color. One guy went all out. He loved this custom color thing. And what he did is he created a swatch thing, and he created an entire palette of his own colors, his own named colors. And he wanted to use his names and everything. Okay.
Okay.
And then he's like, well, I want to use my color and assign that to be the primary color. Like, I don't want to do that twice. I want to create my own named colors. And then how can I assign my color to be the primary color? This is getting pretty meta here. Okay. But that is possible. Okay. And that is done with the color override swatch. So with color override, I can do basically with color override, you can override a single variable. Let me just talk about what this swatch does. So let's say this component colors, there's a lot of color definition here. And maybe like in one particular section, you only want to override the primary color. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. The color override lets you do that. It lets you override just the primary color and that's it. Or, or just the secondary color and that's it.
Okay.
Okay. But another thing that it does, it allows you to override the primary color with your own custom color.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So this is getting
very meta, right? I mean, you have to be very organized to be able to do this.
And it's a lot of work. If you're producing a lot of sites,
yes,
then that would be a lot of work. You're much better off staying generic. I can understand that.
Yes. Again, yeah, it's so now, this primary color now is going to be red, which is kind of crazy, right? So there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I only know one person that's actually doing that. But yeah, it's possible.
I mean, I must say, I really like it. I've been a bit frustrated with RapidWeaver because all the development seems to come from the Stacks guys, and I know, the FTP I've had to ditch. I've had issues with, and I'm kind of using Transmit, and I export it myself and things. But this really brings me back because I was looking at jumping over to blocks because I like the way it does it on the class level. And so this has really helped me because it's now what I need to do now is go through and just read. Now I get the principle of how it's working. I'll just read through what all the different components do within it and start to build out from there.
Perfect.
It's really good.
Anything else on your list?
No, I'm aware I've taken an hour of your time and you're a busy man.
You know what? I'm sure I'll make it up in spades. So I just want to make sure that, everyone sees my vision for Foundation 6. And, you know, I just want to, you know, I want to make sure that anyone that has any sort of frustrations, you know, yeah, I also maybe you had some valid things that maybe, you know, if I don't talk to people that say, I don't get it, then I can't make my product better. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I do, you know, to be fair, I look at it, I obviously haven't read as much as I should have done. And so I appreciate your time on that, because I look and I think, yeah, the stuff is there. And I do appreciate that. I think the big shift for RapidWeaver users who've been using for 10 years is you're now changing your mindset from it's all in the info bar on the right. Now it's in swatches, it's in site
yeah,
style, it's in the components. And if you wrap your head around that, then it will kind of work and it will go. And the design principles of CSS
exactly.
work.
Because I mean, what's great about this is, like, for years, I mean, what made me think of this, of doing it, of this approach was, you know, many years people would want, you know, let's say I had a stack that had some text in it. They're like, well, I want to control the font size and the font family, and then I want to customize the background and the padding for this particular section, and then the settings would just grow and grow and grow and grow, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
people would want to add this and to add that. But now I've taken all those common things that people would want and I've extracted it out. So you can add all of those swatches. Just imagine they're all in every sidebar, and you can associate them with just a class.
Yeah. And you're making, the other thing that you're doing is that in a lot of stacks, you have to make a decision what parts of CSS you make available.
Yes.
You know, whereas you're beginning to move it towards all of CSS will be available.
Yes.
You just have to pull it in because it will work because it's HTML and CSS. And
Exactly.
I really like that.
Exactly. Perfect.
Just have to hope that they make it a bit more stable. I've had tons of crashes on RapidWeaver recent
Really?
times. Yeah, that I'm having an issue with one of the stacks that yeah, it's calling an Amazon S3 audio, and when I put it on, it just goes pear-shaped. So I mean, it's been a site that I've had for a long while, but I'm beginning to rebuild all of my sites again in Foundation because I do like it.
Awesome.
And so
Thank
I'll have
you.
a look at that. So outside of that, I think, do you reckon that for 99% of what is needed, the swatches, Foundation, all of that, it's self-contained, we don't really need to pull in other stacks?
Yes, I would say, like, if you look at, have you seen Foundation Box, Davide Fonchen? So he has a he sells project files for Foundation. Okay. And it's foundationbox.studio is his website. There's a few others, RW Pro. But the reason I bring this up is he at least for his first few projects, he's starting to sprinkle in some other stacks here and there now. For the first few projects, he made it a point to not use any stacks except Foundation 6, right? And the sites he created, the project files he created, you could just go check them out and see them. They're absolutely stunning.
Wow.
Right? So yes, you can do a lot. Now, what's pretty amazing, hopefully you've downloaded the free template pack, right?
Yeah.
As well. And I have some templates in there that I'm sure some people would probably ship as a stack, but I just built it out with swatches, right? Because you can create like these custom components now. Because really the Foundation stacks are like the raw building blocks, the bricks that allow you to build whatever you want. And, you know, recently I sent out a poll on the forums asking where people find their stacks. Like, where, like, if you're looking for a stack, where do you go? Right. And I had a couple people comment, well, Joe, it's your fault. I don't use any more. I don't hardly buy any more stacks because I build everything with swatches in Foundation 6. Yeah. And it's true, because you can build a lot, right? Yeah. Now, however, it doesn't do everything, right? For example, the slider that's built into Foundation 6, it's a slider. It's very basic. Okay. There are sliders out there that have nicer, fancier effects and whatnot, right? The one that's in there gets the job done. Do I plan on making it the best slider in the world? Probably not. Okay. Again, it serves a purpose for if you just want a simple slideshow, it works, right? You can fade, it does right, but it doesn't have a lot of fancy features. Okay. And that's true with a lot of things, right? In fact, it gets for a lot of, especially those like component things, like maybe the accordion is a very basic accordion. It works. It has some nice features, but it doesn't have any fancy effects or some other things that you might like from some other accordion stack. Like I have a squeeze box stack, right? So
but you could add it in though, because the CSS is there, isn't it?
A lot of, so for example, I just released well, there are some things like I just released a QR code stack, right? That's completely outside of Foundation, is very specific. Okay. Other things, I'm releasing an update to my quick flip stack. Okay. And basically it flips cards.
Yeah.
You could build a very rudimentary version of that with swatches, 100%. But there's no way to get all the features that I've added into quick flip, because it requires a lot of JavaScript and some other stuff that just, it's completely outside the scope of what you can do with a swatch, right?
Yeah.
So, there are, again, a lot of stacks that I'm going to be releasing from now on will, a lot of them you could do basic features. Like I'm also going to release a stack called Drift that is like a animation stack. Okay. And it's going to be an entire suite of animation stacks. Yeah. Now I just released a bunch of animate stacks in Foundation 6, and you can do a lot of things with it, but Drift just goes above and beyond what you could potentially do with that because of, again, a lot of it has to do with JavaScript stuff. Okay. Stuff that is just requires custom logic on how to do various things and track things and whatnot. So yeah, hopefully that helps out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the benefit within it. So because I've been using it using RapidWeaver for a long time, I've got tons of stacks in there.
Yep.
And sometimes I wonder whether the age, because some of the stacks you don't know whether the developer's still there. The help file goes to a 404.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I want to clean out, and that's making me look and think Foundation will do 95% of that. Outside of that, there are some other stacks and things that you can buy. I've also noticed that with some of the older stacks as well, so functionality that wasn't available in HTML4 is available in HTML5. So you can put an audio player in, a video player in, even with basic HTML, you can add that in, which you couldn't do, but I've noticed.
That's a perfect example. Yeah. So like Foundation 6 comes with HTML5 video player, HTML5 audio player. Okay. Yeah. I also have extra stacks that are HTML5 video and audio, but what those do is they add a custom player on top of it.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's little extra features like that is what, extra stacks, like if you wanted a slightly nicer, video player, because the one that comes with Foundation 6, it uses the player built into every browser. Right. But if you want to make sure your player look consistent across all browsers, then, I have my HTML5 video stack could do that for you.
Yeah.
Is it required, needed? No. Is it a nice to have? Sure. Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you for giving that space, because I know things are busy. So again, thank you. Appreciate it.
In the next few days, if you feel like you want to go back to that forum thread and kind of just post, your kind of what your aha moments were today, I'd love it. I'd appreciate that.
I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. So
cool.
and I'll have a look. When is your session on today?
In an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, I might not make that because that's my evening.
Yeah, it's recorded. Yeah.
So
yep, you can watch it later today or tomorrow.
Yeah, brilliant.
Cool.
Thank you. Appreciate that again.
My pleasure. You take care, Simon.
And you take care. Bye.
Bye.